Hey, everybody. Good evening to all of you. And this is so exciting. If you have a cat, if you know cats, if you know somebody who has a cat, if you've ever heard the word cats, this is really an important one. And in fact, I'd argue life-saving, presented by Royal Canin and the Human Animal Bond Association. So first, thank you, Royal Canin, for allowing the Human Animal Bond Association to do this. The Human Animal Bond Association exists to support and promote the human animal bond. And if it wasn't for that bond, I wouldn't be here talking to you. The speaker, the amazing speaker I am about to introduce, wouldn't be here talking to you, and you wouldn't even care to hear what any of us have to say. The human animal bond makes it possible for us to have pets or to want pets. It's what is underlying all of this, and we need to understand it better, I think. And the Human Animal Bond Association supports all of that. It's a membership organization. So I have good news. If you're not a member, you can be. It costs a couple bucks. Humananimalbond.net. The first person to join, so type really fast. The first person to join gets a copy of, ta-da, Decoding Your Cat, coincidentally co-authored by our speaker here. I'm honored to have been a participant in this book in a very small way, writing the introduction to the book. I will tell you, this book for clients, if you're a cat parent, you may want this. If you're a veterinarian, you want to say to your clients, get this book. And I'll tell you, it's true, whether they've had a cat or cats, usually it's cats, forever, for decades and decades, or now it's their pandemic cat that they're getting for the first time. This book is exceedingly helpful, following everything from what you need to know about kitties to geriatric cats and everything in between, including the topic that we're going to talk about today. So I think personally, the top of the rung, my personal view when it comes to behavior, and I'm a certified animal behavior consultant, but I take great reference to veterinary behaviorists for all sorts of different reasons. And we indeed do have this book authored by members of the American College of Veterinary Behavior, but a veterinary behaviorist who's about to talk to us about this topic. And I've talked to Dr. Heron before about this very issue, probably too many times. And she's told me, as I'm sure she'll tell you, that clients come in, they go to the internet, and they swear it's a behavior problem. Well, yeah, it is, but it's a result of maybe diabetes or kidney disease. So being a veterinarian really does matter. She certainly is that. Worked for a great deal of time at the Ohio State University, which I hope I got right, but now is with an organization, a non-for-profit, I believe, called
Yes.
Gigi's Rescue, and she'll tell you about that. What's most important is this topic. The number one reason why cats die, or dogs, actually isn't kidney disease or heart disease, it's behavior. And among all the behavior problems, this one is at the top of the list. Once again, humananimalbond.net. First person gets a copy of this book. And I hope you sign up for the newsletter in any which case. That newsletter, if you're a member, comes to you at no charge. And much more than that I can tell you about. But by yapping away here, I'm taking Dr. Heron's time, and that is not a good thing. Dr. Megan Heron, welcome, and thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, Steve. Great introduction as always. Thank you to Royal Canin and the Human Animal Bond Association for hosting me tonight. One of my favorite topics, feline elimination disorders. My favorite cases to see because there's so much we can do. We can fix these. There's not a lot of behavior problems in our pets that I can say, I can fix that. These are ones, now granted, there's outliers, but I feel like we can have a good success rate if we do these right. And even better yet, we can prevent them from having problems in the first place. So that's what Decoding Your Cat, our book, is all about, is understanding your cat's needs so you never have a problem in the first place. And when problems do arrive, you know what behaviors to look for to tell you that your cat may be unhealthy, even in a physical way, if not mental health or behavioral way. So I'll get started here. I got a lot to cover, but I will warn you, we are talking about excrement. So your discretion is advised. So let's just start off gross right from the bat. So raise the virtual hands if you would use this toilet, or how desperate you'd have to be to use this rest stop, God knows where toilet that hasn't been cleaned in quite some time. But I'd say that's pretty equivalent to what a lot of us expect our cats to use, right? Oh, we get a cat, but oh, who wants a litter box? Let's put it furthest away from where we can see it and smell it and know it exists. So basement, damp, mildewy, maybe scoop it once or twice a month, right? That's what this looks like. And essentially, these are equivalent, what we're asking our cats to do in this type of situation. And hopefully none of you are doing this at home, but you probably have clients who don't know any better, right? They have no idea that cats have needs, that this does not fulfill that for them at all. So let's talk about what those natural preferences are. You know, as veterinarians, in order to understand the abnormal, we really need to have a good understanding and baseline of what is normal and what's natural for a cat. So we don't have to train cats to be drawn to litter, right? They have a natural, innate preference for material that is that fine, sandy texture, like this sandbox right here. That's why we all should cover our sandboxes if we have them outside, because any outdoor cat is going to just have a ball eliminating all over this. But cats do that, right? We don't have to take them outside and freeze them like we do a dog necessarily. We just have to offer them free and easy access to a container that has this type of substance in it. And typically that's some sort of clumping clay or some sort of very fine texture that they're going to want to use. And if we don't have that readily available, they will find what matches that best, whether that's a potted plant, a laundry basket, you name it. So I'll just show you this great video I stole off of YouTube, which is a cat. This is just a normal elimination pattern for a cat urinating. Now it's outdoors, but I just do this so that you can see when cats have their full preference and their space is not limited, they will take up quite a bit of room. You see how that cat dug a hole, moved a little, dug a bit more, squat, so takes that squatting posture, the tail flicks to the side, and we see an extended time for urination. So this cat's fully voiding the bladder. So this is just an example of toileting. And this is what a normal cat should look like in the litter box. And then we take some time to fully cover it up. It's normal for a cat to spend a lot of time really covering up all the excrement. And granted, there's a spectrum. Some cats don't cover quite as much. But just to see how much room this cat takes up, which tells you that our average litter box that's available in the grocery store probably doesn't cut it for their preferences. So again, and then we exit. We don't need to spend any extra time once it's covered up. All right, normal elimination patterns. Typically, we're going to see them urinate 2 to 4 times, move their bowels 1 to 2 times. You know, I'm sure we all have that patient that moves its bowels every other day, but we're keeping tabs on them because that's getting to be a little less frequent than we would like, and it puts them at risk of potentially being constipated. And usually we have our clients count these by when they're scooping, they are keeping track of how many they're doing a day, or at least having a general idea. So what is feline inappropriate elimination? I'm sure you've all heard this term, FIE, inappropriate elimination. Technically speaking, it's just elimination outside of a human designated area. It's by far the most common cat behavior problem reported to veterinarians. It is a really common, if not the top behavior reason for relinquishment to shelters, as well as euthanasia. Those of you in general practice, I'm sure, have all euthanized a cat for some sort of elimination disorder. It's tragic, it's terrible, but in some cases, people have reached the point where they don't want their they don't want their house smelling like a toilet anymore. But I want you to just take note of this. So when we say inappropriate elimination, really from the cat's point of view, if they're eliminating on soft bedding that's readily cleaned or carpeting that's clean and in an open area, from the cat's point of view, it's actually quite appropriate. It's really what we as humans decide is inappropriate. So we're kind of coming away from this term inappropriate and shifting gears more to undesirable, because truly, from the cat's point of view, it's quite appropriate. It's just undesirable from the human perspective. But I think in a lot of these cases, we can prevent this. We as veterinarians can prevent this by early education, by helping our cat families understand what's normal and what their needs and preferences are so that they don't develop a problem in the first place. And again, why you will hear me promote our book, Decoding Your Cat, quite a bit, because it's really such a great guideline to help prevent problems in the first place. All right, so why would a cat choose not to use the litter box? So here's what kind of sums up the main motivation. So as veterinary behaviorists, we look for a diagnosis based on the motivation for what we're seeing. So I will say that pain and urgency, so something that's causing it to be painful either to enter, access, or actually go to the bathroom or enter the litter box, or something that's causing an increased frequency or urgency to get to that litter box. These kind of are summed up in what we would call medical causes for going on to the litter box, which I will address a little bit later. And then we see stress, anxiety, aversions to the box, having a preference for something else that isn't the box, and then we can have sexual or territorial communication, which is a normal behavior. So if we've ruled out our medical reasons for urinating outside the litter box, then we have to decide, is this behavior problem a marking issue or a toileting issue, right? So again, I'm looking for motivational diagnoses here. So marking, let's talk about that first. So this looks different than that cat I just showed you urinating in a large sandy field, right? This cat is actually typically, not always, assuming a standing posture. So where they back up to something, a vertical surface, usually you'll see a little tail shake and they deposit usually a small amount, but not always, of urine, and then they simply walk away. And what's really important to differentiate urine marking versus urine toileting is the absence of digging and covering behaviors. Cats are leaving a message here. They're not going to dig a hole ahead of time, and they're not going to go through the motions of covering it up. If your clients are telling you that they hear their cat scratching and covering up after they peed on the couch, it's not a marking behavior, it's toileting behavior, right? You're often going to see marking occur in what we call socially relevant locations. So whether that's items of a certain household member, either someone they're very attached to and they're seeking out that smell and it just feels better to pee where they find that smell, or someone that they're afraid of or maybe don't have a good relationship with. When they smell their smell, it stresses them out, so they pee on it. It could be the favorite place of other pets, window or door frames where there might be outdoor cats causing stress to the indoor cats, or maybe new household items, new furniture, new renovations. I had a household of 3 Burmese that there was a $20,000 kitchen renovation, and the cats had been confined for the 3 weeks that they were redoing it. As soon as the cats had access to the kitchen, they all urine marked all over this brand new, beautiful backsplash and cupboards, because it was so stressful to them. And then they just had free access with no gradual introduction to all this new smell and stress that the urine marked all over it and completely ruined it. So new household items are often targeted because they're different and they smell like an outsider. They smell like something new and unknown is often stressful to our cats. So here's a video of a cat urine marking. So you'll see often there's an investigation of the area, detecting messages maybe from another cat that's left behind. And then you'll see no digging behaviors ahead of time. And you'll see, again, backing up, tail held high. You see a little wiggle on the top of the tail. Upright posture, which is very different than the cat we saw toileting, who was squatting with tail to the side. Now, as I said, usually marking behavior is a small amount of urine deposited, but that is not always the case, as is clearly demonstrated by this cat who is still urinating. And then we walk away. So there's no investigation, there's no covering, they're leaving a clear message and walking away. So why do cats mark? What's the reason for that? So again, we're looking for motivation. And really, the motivation is to leave a message. They are communicating through the scents and the pheromones in their urine. And so what's the message? What are they trying to get across to us or to other cats? I will say commonly, it's that I'm anxious or stressed. So stress marking is probably the #1 behavioral cause for urine marking that we'll see, at least in spayed and neutered cats. You can see cats that are in heat. So a female in heat, it's very normal for her to mark. She's leaving a message. That's her Tinder, right? Leaving my message here for all the gentlemen to know my stats here and where they can find me. It can be sort of a social status issue. Stay off my turf, stay away from my area, whether that's a message to other cats in the household or a message to cats outside the home that are causing stress on the inside. And finally, we can also see cats who will urine mark because of pain. So if they're having inflammation of their lower urinary tract, that's very, very stressful. Any of you ladies out there who've experienced that can understand and relate that it's a very uncomfortable condition. And so if cats are experiencing that, it's stressful and that can motivate them to urine mark. So you never want to assume that urine marking is a pure behavioral problem, right? I've seen plenty of cats that they are urine marking and the main motivation is from some sort of physical pain. All right, so again, cats are leaving messages and the intention in their sort of social repertoire is to leave a message for other cats of how they're feeling. Again, either some sort of communication about looking for a mate, or for neutered animals, expressing feelings of distress, stress, or some sort of territorial or social status message. All right, so moving on to toileting. So toileting is simply the voiding of bladder and or bowel, simply to eliminate the fullness that they're feeling, right? And so ideally, we'd love to see that in our designated litter box area. But when cats are finding another place that they feel is appropriate, then it falls into what we call undesirable toileting. So undesirable toileting, the posturing is going to be identical to what a cat's going to look like in the litter box, right? So they're going to show digging and covering behaviors. They like, so this cat, for example, that is assuming a toileting posture in this sink, probably dug around a little bit to move some dishes around, squatted, fully voided the bladder, and then my guess is went through the motions of covering up. So we have plenty of cats that still go through the motion of digging and covering, even if there's no substrate present to do so. But again, this is also how my clients can know that the cat's just urinated on something, because they hear the sound of that covering behavior as they sort of scratch any sort of surface that they can find, even if there's no substrate. And this is going to be on horizontal surfaces. So I will say, I neglected to mention that for urine marking, while it's typically on a vertical surface, we do on occasion see what we call squat marking, or cats that will mark on horizontal surfaces. The way we tell the difference, again, is through the absence of digging and covering behaviors, as well as being in socially relevant locations. That's going to tell you with the urine marking behavior. For cats that are assuming a squatting posture, showing digging and covering behaviors, going on horizontal surfaces, that's going to be a toileting behavior, right? And it isn't necessarily, there's not really a social significance to the location where they're going. It just tends to be what's appealing and what's accessible to them to toilet. So why not toilet in the box? Well, this really boils down to, when we're looking to motivations for undesirable toileting, either an aversion or a preference, and sometimes both. Often what we'll see is an aversion develop at first, and then as they start going elsewhere, they develop a preference for something else. And the longer that goes on, the harder it is to change. I had a cat present to me who had been defecating outside of the litter box for 8 years. And it was not really a problem to the family until they had a baby. And then, understandably so, when their child started crawling and was crawling into cat poop, that was a problem for them. And I said that prognosis for changing that, I know I did. I was bragging. I said I could fix these, but that was a really difficult one, because it had been rehearsed, and the preference for carpeting that cat had been using had been developed over 8 years. So that was a really challenging one. So the faster you get a grip on this, so have your clients reach out to you immediately, go to your veterinarian right away when this starts, particularly for undesirable defecation, because that's always, in my experience, initiated by some sort of pain or other medical condition. Anyways, so aversion sum up to either an aversion to the box, an aversion to the litter, or an aversion to the location. So we call that litter box aversion, substrate aversion, and location aversion. And on the flip side, we have substrate preference or a location preference. It's really, again, often they go hand in hand, but sometimes there's just a part of the house that this cat really wants for their toilet. You know, when we're designing our new homes, if we ever get the chance to build one, we pick our toilets where we want them to be, and we have a preferred location. Some of us really want privacy, and we want a whole separate door, even from the bathroom. And others like a little more open and have a little more space. So cats can be the same way, and trying to put a litter box somewhere else just isn't going to work for them. They want the litter box right there. And as long as you put a litter box there, they will use it. But if you take it away, they're still going to go in that area, regardless of what's there. So what's not to like? Why would we have litter box aversions developed? As you can see, several examples here. It's either that it's not clean. So litter box hygiene is a huge reason why cats start to toilet outside the litter box. It's not scooped. And again, cats don't really come with an instruction book, so our pet families don't know that that litter box needs to be scooped daily, right? That early litter box I showed you in the basement that's dumped once a month, if no one tells them that they need to scoop every day, then they may not know, right? We're just ignorant humans, right? Not anymore. Anyways, so as you can see, covers can sometimes be a reason why cats will avoid the litter box. Not necessarily because they hate the cover, but often it's because it's smaller, and what happens is when they enter it, they lose their vantage point of what's around them. And so if they're worried about being ambushed by another cat, by a dog, or by a child, they may be reluctant to enter. The other problem with cover litter boxes is that they trap the smells. And they also then hide the smells from the humans in the home. So we may not be reminded that that litter box needs to be scooped every day. And so we're trapping the smells. There's more likely to be more excrement in it, which is going to cause the cat to, as you can see in this picture, defecate right next to the box if they don't want to enter. I will say that I have seen studies showing covered litter boxes actually being very much welcomed by cats, but the studies they did were giant storage boxes with a really big hole cut out of the front, so they were huge, very easily accessible, and they were scooped twice a day. So there are some cats that we can get away with covered litter boxes, and there are cats who do prefer that privacy. So I never recommend just removing all of the covers off of the litter box. Instead, I recommend putting an uncovered one next to the covered one and doing a preference test. If they stop using the covered one altogether and only use the uncovered one, that tells you they prefer it without the cover. But other reasons, you can see there's liners here. This can get caught in cat's nails and create an aversion because it's uncomfortable. You can see the size of the box to cat ratio. We want it to be large enough for them to enter and turn around. Think of that video I first showed you of how much room they really want to have to freely eliminate. There could be obstacles, obstruction. You can have a Rottweiler guarding the Tootsie Rolls. As you can see, there's lots of reasons why the cats wouldn't like a box. And I'll talk about sort of your checklist of ideal litter box here in a little bit. So what we can commonly see and what we really want to watch for as veterinarians are aversions as a result of pain, because it just takes one time. A single painful bowel movement can cause a cat to stop pooping in the litter box for the rest of their life if we don't do something about it. So these are the cats that we tend to find their excrement right next to the box. So they understand that this is the right location. They just get to it and they say, last time I went there, it didn't feel so good, so I'm just going to go right next to it. And that felt okay. So now we've developed a habit, and the longer it goes on, the harder it is to change. When you see stools or poop as the only form of undesirable elimination, this is very telltale for a medical problem, whether it's constipation, anal gland disease, impaction, infection, tail-based pain, pelvic pain, diarrhea, gastrointestinal parasitisms. I've had all of those reasons for why a cat is pooping outside of their litter box. Because it hurt that one time, so they stopped going in the litter box. And even if the medical condition is resolved, that memory is still there. And so they no longer want to poop inside the litter box. So we really need to make sure every elimination is very comfortable for them. Because even if we are successful at retraining them at the litter box, if they have another uncomfortable elimination, they may be starting from square one. And again, it just takes that one event to create a long-lasting litter box aversion. So common preferences for cats who aren't using the litter box. Soft, absorbable, clean materials are going to be the most commonly hit locations. So bedding, again, even if this isn't about anxiety or separation anxiety, bedding is absorbable, and we tend to wash it immediately if our cats go on it. Clean laundry baskets are a big target because they're nice and big. Everything in it is absorbable, and you tend to freak out, and we wash it all right away if somebody pees on it. So laundry baskets of clean or dirty clothing are very common targets. Bath mats. I've seen it a lot where someone's using a covered litter box that isn't cleaned very often, and there's a bath mat right next to it because it's in the bathroom. The cats stick their head in that box and say, this is stinky. Oh, but look, there's this nice, soft, absorbable bath mat. And so they pee on that instead. And lo and behold, it gets swept up and washed right away, and a clean one is there by the end of the day. So they learn that that's a more pleasant place to eliminate rather than going inside that litter box. And again, the longer that goes on, the more of a habit it becomes. So then what happens is the cat family just takes away that mat. Well, they still don't want to go in that litter box. If we haven't changed the litter box dynamic, they're going to wander out to the rest of the home. And look, there's this wall-to-wall carpet. Why don't I try there? Somebody gets out a cleaner and cleans it up for me. It's no big deal. And then we have a carpet preference, which can be really tricky for people who have wall-to-wall carpet. But the point of the story is soft, absorbable, clean materials tend to be most commonly targeted. And the more they practice using these instead of litter, the harder it is to change. Some less common preferences. So cats who prefer more of a hard surface or solid surface. I had someone mention earlier in one of my talks today about cats with medium or long hair, how when they get any sort of clumping litter in their paws, it's really uncomfortable for them, and that can create an aversion to that type of kitty litter, so they may seek out harder substrates. I've seen some purebred cats be drawn to these types of surfaces, even as a kitten. So again, not every cat reads the book on what's normal and how you should behave and pee, but for the most part, these are pretty uncommon preferences. Now, I have had cats that will urine mark on countertops. I've also had cats that will pee in bathtubs because it goes right down the drain. So the bathtub is sort of shaped like a giant litter box, and it goes right down the drain. So I don't know that that's necessarily a preference for a hard surface. It's probably more a preference for a location. But speaking of, location of the litter box matters. So we want to make it very easy to access so that, especially for our older cats who may have some arthritis, where they're just not as spry as that young kitten. And so going down 2 flights of stairs and jumping over a baby gate that's put up for the dog not to get in isn't as appealing to them. You also want to make sure it's a quiet area and free from what we call agonistic or startling encounters. And even if that's the sound of a washer dryer, the sound of a heater or air conditioner suddenly going on while they're eliminating, that could be hard on them. Or if there's children playing or dogs barking, that can be disturbing to a cat. They want a quiet area. And while we want it to be separate from their food and water bowls, we still want it near a core area. So you want it to be where a cat is spending time. You don't want to have them have to climb down 2 flights of stairs to the corner of a basement if no one in the household ever uses the basement. Granted, some cats will learn that and are willing to do it, but your average cat would probably prefer something on the same level of the home where people are spending time, near a core area. But again, far enough distance away from where their food and water are, because just an innate instinct to not eliminate right next to where you eat is something that cats are pretty particular about. I want you to take a minute and look at these 2 pictures. So you can see the picture on the left, there's a litter box in the corner here behind this little shade. And in this beautiful, my gosh, beautiful laundry room here, we have washer dryer, we have a little pet shower, and then we have access to a litter box right under here. So while these are both aesthetically pleasing, just kind of take a second to think about which one's going to be more appealing from the cat's point of view. Right, from the human perspective, this is in the middle of my living room almost. I'm going to have guests, and my cat might be, pooping while I'm having coffee with my neighbor. But from the cat's point of view, this is near a core area that's separate from food and water. There's privacy with a shade, but it's not covered, so it's not trapping scents or odors. And so our people in the household are going to be alerted to excrement and scoop it regularly. And then there's also this little corrugated cardboard here, so if they need to scratch or if they want to dust their paws of any remaining litter, they can do so. If we look over here, when we talk about being free from startling encounters, we have a washer and dryer just a wall away from where these litter boxes are. If you're using this shower, the drain is probably very loud. Plus, a cat is entering this, which is trapping the smells. And if there's other dogs, cats, or kids, cats may be reluctant to enter that because they are reluctant to not know, to go to a place they don't know what's around them. So they may be susceptible to ambush. They also, if there's another cat, may not know if there's another cat in there. They can't just hang an occupied sign here. So while this is beautiful, I think from the cat's point of view, you may run into problems utilizing this setup as opposed to this one here in a court area. All right, so this brings us to anxiety-related toileting. So this is going to be a result typically of social and environmental stressors, meaning some sort of change, some sort of commotion, something new, whether it's a person or a piece of furniture or a new part of the house, a renovation. Separation anxiety is also a reason why cats might toilet outside the litter box. Again, we can see cats that urine mark, as we talked about before, as a result of stressors and as a result of separation anxiety. But we can also see what we call anxiety-related toileting, meaning cats are seeking out the smell of people, and it just feels better to pee on things. And I can also see how when things are going well, the cat's life is pretty easy going, they've got a pretty good tolerance of subpar litter box management. But you throw a little stress into that mix, and that's gonna lower their threshold of their tolerance. And so while they might have tolerated a litter box in the basement that was scooped every 3 to 4 days, you add some stress to that household. You get a new puppy, you have a baby, you do a household renovation, suddenly that tolerance is no longer, and then they're going to start to toilet elsewhere. And we would consider that anxiety-related toileting. So stress is a culprit for toileting. As I said, sometimes peeing on things just makes you feel better when you're a cat or a dog. So we can see social group changes, environmental changes, absence of a family member or change in a preferred family member's schedule, cats outside the home, inter-cat social tension. Again, the same reasons we might see for a cat to stress urine mark can also be a reason to stress toilet. And again, it's all about the posture and the amount, and are they avoiding their full bladder, or are they just leaving a small amount to leave a message? So again, even what we as humans might think is pleasurable and fun, and there's no way it can be stressful, from the cat's point of view, even the mildest of change or the cutest of puppies can be enough to cause stress for them to urinate out of anxiety. Okay, so just a little side box here about feline interstitial cystitis, or FIC. So as you probably know, this is a condition characterized by stress-induced inflammation of the bladder. So we know that stress activates a physical response in the body, and in this syndrome, it causes a release of substances that regulate inflammation and pain, which then leads to bladder pain and bleeding in susceptible cats. Right, this is all about cats. So Dr. Buffington did a lot of work when we were at Ohio State together. He did a lot of work looking at what causes FIC, how can we treat FIC, and are there biomarkers? Because not every cat has this problem. Some cats can be stressed to the max and they will never pee blood. And others have the most subtle of changes in their life and are suddenly peeing blood all over the house. And in these guys, even the most benign of stressors can trigger a flare-up event for these cats. So this is kind of considered a medical issue, but it is triggered by environmental change and stress. All right, so I'm just going to go through a couple common myths on feline elimination before I go into a little bit more about treatment and preventive setup. And we call that It's Really True. So throughout Decoding Your Cat, in each of our chapters for every topic, we go through a few myths that are commonly discussed and try to debunk them for you. So the first one is, my cat is being spiteful when he eliminates outside the litter box. So this actually is not true. So as much as it sucks to have your cat pee or poop on your bed, in your shoes, on your new outfit, on your brand new couch, try not to take it personally. Your cat is trying to tell you something, but it's more often a cry for help than some sort of vengeful message. They're not mad at you for going back to work. They are upset. They are emotionally attached to you, and suddenly their whole routine is disrupted. That's hard for them. It's stressful. And peeing on things is a coping mechanism. It's just a natural coping mechanism for some cats to help them feel better about the situation. But it's not about being spiteful. They're not trying to get back at you. That whole emotion of spite and these sort of willful thought processes that go along with spite is not something that their prefrontal cortex is capable of. Cats are smart, don't get me wrong. They're capable of reasoning and problem solving, but spite is not something their brain does. As much as we feel convinced that that is not the case, I promise you, your cat is not being spiteful when he's showing these problems. All right, another common myth that we'll hear our clients say is, my cat is marking to show dominance. So if you look up the definition of social dominance in a dictionary or textbook, dominance is equivalent to a social status obtained to the animal that has preferential access to resources over another social group member. So of the same species, so a cat that has preferential access to food, they get to eat the food and all the other cats move away, or a preferred resting place, or access to a preferred social group member. So it's resources, right? And this was evolved over cats' ethology so that they would stop fighting, right? Fighting and aggression is expensive and dangerous when you are a cat and don't have humans to take you to the veterinarian to survive and get better. And so they develop these social group dynamics so that they don't have to fight. And they just say, you know what, you've established dominance over this resources and I'll refer to you. Depositing urine has nothing to do with that. It's unrelated to gaining access to resources. So it's a completely separate concept. So if your cat is peeing on your pillow, he is not trying to show you that he's the boss or trying to be dominant over you. There's a message there indeed, but it has nothing to do with dominance. And then we have this. Well, I need to reprimand my cat when he pees outside the litter box. If I catch him in the act, I need to show him that it's wrong, right? Well, this is actually very problematic because the punishment in itself, particularly coming from a beloved family member, it's going to trigger a stress response. And what this does is really puts us at risk of damaging that human-animal bond. It also may exacerbate the issue or just lead them to go somewhere else. Or I just need to be more discreet about this. This is the coping mechanism for a cat. They're highly motivated to do it, either because their litter box dynamics are terrible, or they're super stressed, or they have a medical reason. From their mind, their point of view, it's completely appropriate and necessary. And it's our job to sort of take a step back and say, whoa, something's wrong, and try to uncover the reason behind it. Otherwise, we're just going to create a bigger and bigger problem and really damage our relationship. This is a human-animal bond talk. So this is one key note I would have you take away, is that punishment for these behaviors is really contraindicated and likely to make things worse and damage the bond. And that's when you get the people that come to you for euthanasia, because that bond is gone, the problem is worse, and often it started with punishment. So what's better than punishment, right? Because we don't want to just say, oh, you peed there, no big deal, I'll walk away. So what we can do is try to prevent it by decreasing the attractiveness to the preferred areas or decreasing their access. So if we found, often what I will do for my cat parents whose cat is peeing outside the litter box is I have them buy a wood lamp or a black light, and this is really awful the first time they have to do it and see all the places their cat has peed, but they find that bright green glow in the carpet. They do the sniff test, make sure it's pee. Yep, that's nasty, that's pee, it's very strong. We then fully saturate it with an enzymatic cleaner. My favorite right now is Siva's Urine Away, the makers of Feel Away. It has a really nice fresh scent, and it's also safe to be if it gets onto the animal and they are to lick it. So very safe. It's also helpful if they've soiled themselves. You can wipe them with this product. And then there's also Nature's Miracle, which is readily available in many pet stores. Simple Solutions is another one readily available in pet stores and grocery stores. And then Anti-Icky Pool is another one you have to get online, but it's a very good product. So it really breaks down the enzymes in the organic material so that the odor is truly eliminated. So we saturate with cleaner, and then we want to put deterrents there so that they're not driven to go there again. So that can be tin foil, upside down carpet runner that has those little spikes that aren't sharp, they're just uncomfortable, so it's less desirable, less appealing for them. I've also had people use bubble wrap because that doesn't feel good on their feet, and so that area is covered so they're not drawn to go there again. We can also block the areas if possible. If it's a room that they're constantly eliminating in, if we can just close the door so they can't access it. Or if needed, if we have to confine them, we create a safe haven for them, and they're in this safe haven with all of their needs met, unless we can directly supervise them so that we can gently stop them if they are starting to posture like they're going to eliminate. And then on the flip side, we also have to increase the attractiveness of the litter box. Simply deterring and making something unattractive is only half of the equation. We also have to work on making the litter box the most appealing place to eliminate in the entire house. And so that brings me to our last little myth of, I've got to lock my cat in the bathroom and teach her to use the litter box. If I just shut her in with nothing but a litter box, she's going to learn that that's where she needs to pee. So in that case, if we're just locking them in a barren room without all of their needs being met, that confinement is likely to cause some stress, and it's not really gonna resolve the issue if none of the other dynamics in the environment that involve the litter box are changed, or whatever it is that's causing the stress persists. This is only going to maybe temporarily solve the solution while they're confined. But then you may have a rebound effect if that confinement was super stressful for them. So to try to avoid the stress of that, for a cat that you need to confine to make sure they don't have access to their preferred elimination sites, is to create what we call a safe haven. Some people will refer to this as a refuge or a safe core area. And so when they're not easily deterred from their preferred elimination areas, we will create a safe haven where they have access to food, so canned food and dry food, so they have options depending on your cat's health status, right? There may be special diets or there may be a canned food only. You want to give them places to rest, perch, and hide. Those are three concepts of our resting areas. So they want to be able to feel concealed, they want to be able to feel comfort, and they want to be able to be up high. And typically we're going to put those resting areas on the periphery of a room because cats are going to feel the safest if they can be up high and on the periphery of a room. So you want to give them lots of different options. Scratching options, both vertical and horizontal. Again, it's a necessary behavior. So if they're going to be spending time in this room, they need to, and they're resting in this room because cats like to scratch after they wake up from resting, they need to have options for scratching. Toys, and again, this is going to take some creativity in finding what your cat prefers and what they can play with outdoor being present. But it's also important that we do social time with them in this room. So if you're working from home, hang out in the safe haven with that computer and do some work for a few hours there. And then during your breaks, take time to play with your cat, pet your cat, give them that social one-on-one time. And then clearly we want to have access to litter boxes. And in some cases, this is where we can offer a buffet or lots of different choices to see what their preferences are. Okay, so I could go a lot more into preferences and litter box buffets, but we're coming to an end here. So I just want to go a quick approach to treatment, and that is summed up to addressing medical issues, optimizing the litter box dynamic, and enriching the heck out of the environment. And in some cases, we'll add anti-anxiety medications as an adjunct. The medications alone do not solve the problem, but often they give just enough of a boost that we reach success. All right, so I think it's mostly a veterinary audience. I don't need to spend too much time here, but medical conditions that can lead to undesirable elimination basically sum up to anything that's going to cause urinary tract or GI discomfort or an increase in frequency or production of urine or stools. That's going to make them need to go more often. And so we recommend, if we're having cats present for the first time for elimination, full physical exam, CBC chemistry, urinalysis, fecal, especially if there's inappropriate defecation going on, and then we do additional imaging, ultrasound, cultures if needed to fully investigate. But we've got to rule these out before we go down the behavior treatment path. And we need to address medical issues. And again, that's a whole nother lecture to get into every possible medical cause for a cat to stop using the litter box. But your goal here is for cats to have comfortable, effortless elimination. And this can be accomplished through special diets, whether it's a joint healthcare diet like JD, or whether it's Royal Canin's urinary SO. I mean, there's just, and Royal Canin has so many options for cats to have comfortable bowel movements. It's all about appropriate pH. It's all about getting them to drink adequate amounts of water. And when we can enhance that through the use of water fountains, through running our little faucet, find out what your cat likes and increase their water. And in some cases, we're adding water to their food, anything we can do to keep that flow going. Pain control is really important, whether that's bladder pain, whether that's arthritic pain, whether that's GI pain, when we're using fiber supplements, special diets. Just do what you can to make it feel really comfortable to go to the bathroom, so that even if you've resolved an issue, a new one does not arrive and cause you to have to start from square one. And then when we talk about optimizing the litter box dynamics, so what do cats love? They want their box to be clean daily. Most cats are going to prefer that uncovered box. Most cats are going to want that clumping, sandy texture, which typically is clumping clay litter. Again, I won't go into details about all of the others, but some of the clumping products are made out of food items, which some cats are not going to be wanting to use, or even more dangerous, they could be drawn to eating that material, which would be a very terrible foreign body. You want it to be big. We say nose to tail times 1.5, easily accessible. So these storage containers that are clear, where we cut out a large hole to allow them to easily access it, are great. You want it to be close to their core area. And we want them to have multiple options, especially if there's multiple cats in the home. So we say N+1, meaning number of litter boxes equal to the number of cats plus one extra in case every cat goes to the bathroom while you're away at work and there's one who still needs to go again. And that way everybody feels like they have a clean toilet. Think about multiple locations. So if you have 8 cats and 9 litter boxes, but they're all in the same room, it's just going to take one cat to sit right at that threshold and prevent all the other cats from accessing it. So thinking about different options, and that's really the case for all resources for cats to prevent social tension, but especially for the litter box. And try to avoid liners or collars that might interfere with their ability to completely move around within the litter box or get their claws stuck. So enriching the environment, again, I could probably speak a whole hour on this, but I'll just kind of give an overview. Enrichment allows an animal to engage in normal, natural behavior for which they are highly driven to perform. So this is about providing outlets for normal, natural behaviors in cats. The problem is a lot of normal, natural behaviors for cats are what we would consider as a nuisance for humans. So we've got to find a balance. We have to find a way that gives them that outlet on appropriate things. This is going to ease social tension, reduce their stress. So Tony Buffington at Ohio State did a lot of research with FIC cats and found what he called the multimodal environmental modification management, where he found that by enriching the environment, we could reduce the incidence and shorten the length of time that cats had FIC flare-ups. So again, that's a syndrome that's related to stress, but I say this goes for all undesirable urinary problems. Enriching the environment is an essential piece of the puzzle for successful treatment. And again, just a few examples. Think hunting, chewing, scratching, viewing, providing appropriate, desirable outlets for all of those natural behaviors is likely to lead you to success. We will often add pheromone enrichment to our plan just to increase comfort. We have the 2 products, Feel Away Classic and Feel Away Multi-Cat. I kind of say it sums up to Feel Away Classic says it's okay to pee here, as in toilet here, but you don't want to mark here because it's the opposite of marking. And Multi-Cat is saying, mommy's here, feel comfortable, right? So if I have a cat that is toileting outside of the litter box, then I'm probably going to want to put Feel Away Classic near the litter box. If I have a cat that is marking on a couch, then I'm going to want to put Feel Away Classic near the couch because it deters marking but encourages safety and toileting, if that makes sense. But both the products definitely have a role in here. And then finally, anti-anxiety medication. It does not have to be a last resort. If you have cat families that are at their wits' end, this cat is going to lose its life or lose its home, don't hesitate to add anti-anxiety medications to the mix. In addition to litter box, optimizing the litter box dynamics and enriching the heck out of the environment. Again, it has to be all of these. And it's a decision made between family and veterinarian. And again, meds alone will not resolve the issue. It needs to be done in adjunct. Thus concludes our discussion, decoding your cat feline elimination problems. I hopefully saved a few minutes for questions. Thank you very much to the Human Animal Bond Association and Royal Canin for having me tonight.
Round of applause, everybody. Dr. Heron, you're terrific, of course.
Thank you.
It doesn't surprise me. And please do ask your questions. I have a question that came in earlier, so it's not on my screen, but Julie, who is amazing. Thank you, Julie, from the Human Animal Bond Association. Oh, some shocking news. So we said we would give away a copy of this book to the first person to join the Human Animal Bond Association. This book, Decoding Your Cat, same as the book on the screen. Problem though, people have the book. So some people said, oh, I'll join, but I've already got the book and I'll be honest. So if you don't have the book, would like a free, he said free, it's my favorite 4-letter word, copy of this book, it's yours, but the caveat, you have to join the Human Animal Bond Association, but hopefully that is a good thing for you in so many ways. The other thing is you can put the logo then on your practice website and use it in any way, almost any way that's fair, that you would like to say, I'm a member of the Human Animal Bond Association. Okay, the question that I have here. And if you have questions, friends, please ask. Is it possible for a cat to shake a tail and look like the cat is marking, but tricks you because no urine is coming out?
Yeah, great question. I have witnessed this firsthand. I've had patients do it in my exam room where we're all going, whoa, he's gonna mark, and just goes through the motion, shakes that tail, nothing comes out. So a sham mark was what we call it.
I never
And
knew
it's
that.
and so while it's not depositing urine and not ruining your household, we still want to take into consideration that that cat may be still trying to leave a message, even if he's not fulfilling the complete sequence of the urine marking behavior. So I'd still be interested in determining what's going on. So investigating for physical pain or discomfort, and then uncovering what is it that's stressing out this cat. Is there anything we can do to mitigate it? And if nothing else, can we enrich the heck out of the environment, give this cat a little more attention and see if that makes a difference, as well as optimizing the litter box environment. So while I talked about optimizing litter boxes being essential for a toiling problem, Ben Hart actually did a study on urine where they recruited urine marking cats out of UC Davis, and they did environmental enrichment for all of them, and they reduced the incident of marking by 50%. Now, granted, if your cat is marking in your house 10 times a day, that still means they're marking 5 times a day, which is a lot, but it gets you halfway there. So even for marking, we want to make sure our litter box dynamics are awesome.
How often do cats actually have UTIs?
Great question. So
It's pretty rare, actually,
it's
right?
actually way less common than we might think. Because I think for dogs, it's much more common, and people, it's much more common. But for cats, it's actually pretty rare, especially for male cats. And often cats that are getting repeated UTIs probably have some other anatomical problem or bladder stones or something with their urine pH or some other pathology that's causing that. So it's actually pretty uncommon. You know, when we do cytology, sometimes we say, oh, we might see bacteria, but without a culture, that what appears to be bacteria doesn't necessarily indicate that that cat has urinary tract infection. And so while some cats may get better when we put them on antibiotics, it may be because they were going to get better anyways. Or there's some of these antibiotics that have a bit of, I think, anti-inflammatory, a mild anti-inflammatory property to them, which is increasing comfort and allowing them to feel better. Or it's causing us to pay attention to our cat twice a day if we're really good at giving medications in a non-stressful way.
And there's a new Antec test. It's called Fast Track, I believe,
Oh
and it
yeah.
can determine very quickly, right, as to whether
Mm-hmm.
the cat or dog has a
Has a
UTI.
UTI. Yeah.
Yeah. Litter material. Do you have a favorite, or I'll add to that, do you have a favorite not to recommend?
So one of my favorite pastimes with veterinary students was to take a trip to the local pet store and just look on the shelves at what all of our clients have in front of them, because we're setting them in blind and saying, pick one. And then they're just subject to marketing psychology, right? Which box looks pretty, which picture of a cat looks happiest. And there's so much to choose from. So what I say is try to go back to what's in a cat's innate preference. And I think unscented clumping clay litter meets that preference best because it's fine, it's sandy, and when they urinate or defecate, it makes a nice little clump that we can scoop out immediately and essentially remove all odor, so that there's a fully flushed toilet, for lack of a better word. I'm not a fan of larger chunks, so the pelleted litters. I've had a lot of cats have problems with that because it's hard on their paws. It's uncomfortable. Sometimes the crystals have been a problem, although I have had a lot of purebred cats whose the breeders are using the crystal type litter. So that's what the kittens got used to. So a lot of those cats do very well with that litter because they were introduced to it very young. But it's not my first choice. And if you have a cat having problems and that's their litter, I'm probably going to change it to clumping clay that's unscented. And I just want to say that whenever I give these talks, if you have a cat that's doing very well, but it's using a litter type that maybe I say is least desirable, I would not go around just immediately changing out all of the litter boxes. To really tell what your cat likes best, I can tell you what I like best, but you want to look at your individual cat's preferences and offering some choices And so if you don't want to have 5 litter boxes out at once, which I understand, just do something new one at a time. So keep the old litter box, put a new one next to it with a new type of litter. And just every day kind of keep track and see which one they like better. And then the next day, take out the one that they seem to like the least and try something else and compare. And then when you find what your cat likes, they are going to completely stop using that other one. But the thing is that if you have multiple cats in a household, they may not have the same preferences. So sometimes it's good to do the experiments and determine if you need to have different types of litter in different boxes to meet the needs and preferences of the different cats in the home.
Okay, well, I'll try to get through as many as I can here. Is gabapentin the better choice? Should an anti-anxiety supplement be necessary? So I think maybe what they're getting at is there are the anti-anxiety medications, and then there are the various products that can help decrease anxiety, like pheromones, you said. Zilkine can help, right? If there's anxiety in the household. I know someone who likes Angstitane. So there are those products, right? But gabapentin is somewhere in between, and it works a little differently. So what would the choice be?
Yeah, so gabapentin's all the rage right now for cats because it's really changed the lives of cats visiting the vet. So gabapentin is a medication that works within about 30 to 60 minutes and lasts about 8 hours. So it's really great for cats for situational distress. It's also, I mean, it's a product used for neuropathic pain and for anxiety. So it's a nice 2-for-1 for cats that are struggling with pain. If we are going to be using it for daily use, it does need to be given twice a day, though, because its effects are going to wear off after about 8 hours. But the study's showing giving either 50 to 100 milligrams the night before a vet visit and the morning of, it's been very helpful for that. If you're going to use it for an elimination disorder, so if you've diagnosed this as an anxiety disorder, gabapentin is something that will work right away. And so if you need an immediate help for this cat, it would be an option for you. It's fairly sedating for most cats, so I'm not sure how successful this is going to be long term. My preference for treating an anxiety-related urine marking problem or an anxiety-related toileting problem would probably be a daily SSRI or in some cases TCA, but for cats, because of the side effect profile, I tend to stick with SSRIs like fluoxetine, which is Prozac, paroxetine, which is Paxil, or sertraline, which is Zoloft. So ideally, we get them as a once-a-day medication. We get it compounded into a flavor so that the cat is willing to eat it, which takes a little bit of training and adjusting to them expecting something really awesome. And that can be a challenge for some of our cats. And worst case scenario, last resort, we'll do the transdermal, just recognizing that it's not fully absorbed when given that way. But the last thing we want to do is cause stress by having the owner chase the cat down to shove a pill down their throat. So it's not as simple as throwing them on it. Then I will say the nice thing about gabapentin is that it's flavorless. So you can open the capsule and sprinkle it on their favorite food, and most, not all, but most cats will eat it fairly readily. But it does need to be given twice a day if you're going to be using it as a treatment for elimination problems. But it can be sedating, so you may need to adjust the dose, or again, consider an SSRI.
Or you could titrate up the dose, right?
You can. It just every cat's an individual, and some are just very sensitive to the sedative effects, and some eat through it like candy, and some get a little cray-cray on it. So I've seen paradoxical excitation in just about every medication we've used. So as veterinarians, we need to just check in closely with our families to make sure we're seeing the desired effect.
So something amazing happened during your talk. Dr. Robin Downing joined for a time. I don't know if she's still there or not, but if you are Dr. Downing, hello. She was texting me. Oh, she's so good. You are so good. And so is Dr. Downing. All right. Not one, but two questions about this. Automatic litter boxes, good or bad?
So I'll start with the good. The good thing about automatic litter boxes is that it can guarantee that you have good cleanliness, right? So the idea is that after the cat exits, there's a period of time, ideally a time delay from when the cat's exited the room, and it removes all the excrement. So from that standpoint, you have good hygiene. And particularly for families where someone's immune compromised or disabled and may have difficulty scooping a litter box every day, then that might be a good fit for that household. That said, not everything works like it's supposed to. So I've seen litter boxes that malfunction and they go off while the cat is in it. And so I can probably guarantee you the cat's never going to use that litter box again if that happens. I've also seen them where the cat is still in a room when it goes off and it makes a loud noise. So I think sometimes you get what you pay for, and you really want to look for ones that are very quiet, very slow moving, and very accurate about sensing whether a cat is nearby, because it can cause some problems for sure. But just like litter box, litter type, in forms of enrichment, each cat is an individual. So I don't have a blanket never use an automatic litter box. I think there are some scenarios where it is an appropriate choice for them. You just have to be aware that there are potential pitfalls.
Yeah, and if I could add to that, some of the automatic litter boxes people think are very large, and they are. But when you look at the size of the place where the cat actually goes in the box, that might be, depending on the box, very, very small and way
Right.
too small for most cats. But I've talked to people that are like, 140 years old, and they have a difficult time scooping.
Yeah. Right.
So you're right, depending on the circumstance. You are incredible. I don't want to take people over time here, and I know you're about to leave for a hot vacation, so I don't want to keep you.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Lake Michigan, here I come.
Again, the book called Decoding Your Cat, Human Animal Bond Association. So we do have a lucky winner finally, humananimalbond.net, if you'd like to join as well. We only have one copy to give away, but it doesn't mean anywhere books are sold, you can find Decoding Your Cat. If not, contact me. I'll send you one for about 4 times the price. So, Dr. Heron, once again, thank you very much. Honored to have all of you join us on a Tuesday, I think. Tuesday, I had to stop and think about that. I'm still not sure. A Tuesday night, particularly my friend Dr. Robin Downing. But all of you, thank you so much. Thanks also from me to Royal Canin, the Human Animal Bond Association. We do this once a month. I believe next month we are talking about transport, getting cats, another cat talk, getting cats from one place to another. We'll talk about a product called Sleepy Pods, which you probably know about, Dr. Heron, and how you make it possible to get the cat to the veterinarian without you needing to join an aerobic class for all the calories you're going to chasing the cat all over the house. So we'll let you know the date of that. I'm not sure that we know that yet. Thank you to the amazing Julie Legred for organizing all this and doing all the technical stuff involved in these virtual talks. Oh, by the way, one more thing, because I had a question about this, a question I don't think you can answer, Dr. Heron. The question is, what is he wearing? Can you see? It's a cat talk, and I'm in big trouble.
What are you wearing?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm guilty too.
Are you wearing dogs too?
And it's teal. Wow, we really coordinated tonight. Yeah.
We knew that, right? And your slides are as well. So whatever teal is, I don't know. Guys don't know these things. It's Snoopy, by the way, on my shirt. Once again, God, I'm talking way too long here. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Oh, right, the other 2 sessions this week. I forgot to mention that. Sorry. Can you hear me? Julie, sorry. Oh, like tomorrow. So there's one session tomorrow night. Can you still hear me, Megan?
I can, yeah.
Yeah, so there's one session tomorrow night. I think you and I